Hello everybody, welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. When we think of the spectacular musical juggernaut that was Bob Marley and the Wailers, we automatically imagine the skipper Bob, or his magnificent rhythm section, the Barrett Brothers, or even percussionist Alvin Sicko Patterson. The often most overlooked member of this amazing team of musicians was the band's keyboardist in the young mercurial jack-in-the-box, Tyrone Downie, a phenomenal piano player whose magic fingers brought vivid color, broader sound, rich textures, and extra layers to some of reggae's greatest ever songs. Though he first played with the Wailers at the age of 13, he was 19 years old when he contributed his brilliance to 1976's Rastaman Vibration album and became a very important and vital piece of that band as it went on to reshape global music as we know it today. On top of his musical input, he was a ball of fun and youthful energy, the joker and prankster who made sure there was never a dull moment on the numerous tours and long hours on the road. He wasn't just the youngest in the group, but also became like Bob's little brother and trusted friend. On many occasions, when ambushed by the press for interviews, Bob would be too stoned to answer and would often push Tyrone forward to answer questions.
Tyrone. Me? You.
Well, the Apollo Theatre, well, it wasn't really that different. Well, in the old days of the Apollo, right? It must have been like...
To crown his escapades with the Top Gong, Tyrone Downie would also lend his keyboard wizardry to an insane number of reggae classics over the years, following his mentor's death in 1981. Now without further ado, let's take a look at the life and times of Tyrone Downie. This Kingston native was born on May 20th, 1956 and grew up in the gritty streets of Vineyard Road in downtown Kingston. His musical prowess was first noticed as a child at his local church, but it was when he was enrolled at the prestigious Kingston College that his musical journey would go to the next level. He became close friends with older schoolmate Augustus Pablo, who then had an incredible love for the keyboards, and they would often sneak into the school chapel to practice on the church organ, and Augustus Pablo would inspire him to play the piano with the school choir, a place where he would gain incredible knowledge, learning how to sing and read music. And it was also Pablo that introduced Tyrone Downie to Aston Barrett while just 13 years old. It was in the middle of 1969, and Family Man had just returned from a tour of the UK with his band, The Upsetters. There were no immediate engagements for the band, so Aston Barrett decided to put a temporary group together called the Youth Professionals to play a few gigs at a small club called the Green Mist. Augustus Pablo would recommend Tyrone Downie for the role of keyboardist, and the youngster impressed Aston Barrett a great deal. In fact, it was so tight that Aston would take him along to the studio and include him in the recording of many hits like Bob Marley's Trench Town Rock, Delroy Wilson's Better Must Come, and the songs for other big names. Even though, of course, he didn't get paid a penny in those times. By 1972, the then Wailers trio of Bob, Bunny and Peter were assembling a backing band to take on tour with them, but the then 16-year-old Tyrone was scared to death of the guys. In those times, Bob, Bunny and Peter had earned a reputation for being three no-nonsense tough guys from Trenchtown. For a start, Bob had thoroughly beaten up producer Nani the Observer in a brutal street fight. Bunny had roughed up and beaten up Lee Scratch Perry at the popular Sombrero nightclub, and Peter, a martial artist, had terrified a Kingston street gang by almost beating their leader unconscious when they jumped him in Trenchtown, all in the space of a few weeks before then. Young Tyrone declined the invitation that year and instead chose to play for a band called the Caribs that was backing up former Clarendonian singer Ernest Wilson. But 2 years later, after the Wailers trio had broken up, he couldn't say no when they insisted that he come and play with them at their reunion concerts in 1974 that featured American singer Stevie Wonder, as well as another show that featured the Jackson 5 and the young Michael Jackson. And this caused him to get fired by the Caribs band leader Jackie Jackson, who told him, "Go play for the Rastaman and don't come back." So the then 18-year-old went back to playing hotel and nightclub gigs, and it was there that he would meet up with Bob Marley again in a major way. He'd been noticed by Bob's then manager and Mr. Fix-It, Lee Jaffe, while doing his thing at a hotel, and Jaffe told Bob that Tyrone Downie would be an incredible addition to his band and told him to go and check him out as soon as possible. So days later, Tyrone Downie was playing with his band at the then Wyndham Hotel in Kingston and was seriously mashing up the place with some serious licks on the keyboard. Among all the people dancing up a sweat that night were Bob Marley and his then girlfriend Cindy Breakspear, who had just won the Miss Jamaica beauty pageant. Bob was really having fun and really digging Tyrone's play, and went over to tell him that he was impressed at how much he had improved, and told him that his band was going on tour and invited him to join them. He was still scared of Bob, but after getting positive feedback from Wailers guitarist Al Anderson, he took the offer and became the group's keyboardist. And his first live show with the Wailers was at the famous concert with soul R&B legend Marvin Gaye. Young Tyrone settled in seamlessly as the band began to put together the music that would make up the Rastaman Vibration album. In fact, Wailers guitarist Al Anderson credited Tyrone with inspiring and co-writing the album's title track. One day while walking to the studio to rehearse, Tyrone in his usual playful manner chanted loudly Rastaman Vibration, and Bob would respond, positive. Tyrone excitedly told the Tough Gong that it sounded like the making of a song. Bob agreed, and both men went to the studio to write it. Tyrone would also in that same period lend his skills to the classic album Marcus Garvey by Burning Spear. The amazing texture and depth that he would infuse into the Rastaman Vibration album helped to make it a stunning success and one of Bob Marley and the Wailers' highest charting albums, not to mention the only one to break into the top 10 of the US Billboard 200 charts. Now an integral part of the Marley music machine, he was always at Bob's side and almost lost his life when gunmen attacked Bob's house in 1976. It's difficult to truly describe his influence on the Wailers' sound and legend, especially while on exile with Bob in London after the attempt on his life. While in the UK, they would put together the phenomenal Exodus album, on which his contributions weren't limited to backup vocals and keyboard wizardry, but would include him co-writing Waiting in Vain, Jamming, and the very title track, Exodus. Tyrone Downie would mesmerize listeners the next year on the Kaya album, followed by Survival and Uprising, that was Bob's last album before his sad passing in 1981, and he would still lend his skills to Bob's posthumous album, Confrontation. And after Bob's passing, Tyrone, who was then rated among the best keyboard players on the planet, would go on tour with Jimmy Cliff, Steel Pulse, Talking Heads, Black Uhuru, and many other big groups. My favorite collaboration of his in the post-Bob Marley era was his work as keyboardist on Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers' 2 albums, Play the Game Right and Hey World, in 1985 and 86 respectively. He would apply himself to studio session work and would by 1990 work very closely with producers like Mikey Bennett and Sly and Robbie, which led to him playing on numerous dancehall classics for artists like Shabarangs and Buju Banton. And he also did plenty of movie soundtrack work for movies like The Mighty Queen and Slaves of New York. He moved to France in the 1990s, where he worked with many artists and to a large extent helped ignite the French reggae scene, a truly larger-than-life figure in Jamaican and indeed world music. Interestingly, he was the inspiration behind singer Grace Jones' song titled My Jamaican Guy. The pair weren't involved romantically, but Jones wrote it in honor of her big crush on Tyrone, and he would release his first and only album titled Organ D before moving back to Jamaica by the end of the 2000s. And he would do his thing over the years on studio session work for various artists until his sad death due to cancer on November 5th, 2022 at the University of the West Indies Hospital at the age of 66. The great Tyrone Downie spent 5 decades in music and did incredible work on numerous artists both within and beyond the reggae genre. A phenomenal musician and one of the rapidly shrinking inner circle of the Tough Gong, he will always be remembered for his warm personality, amazing talent, and his undeniable impact on reggae music. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, God bless.